Alright, so before we get to the real topic of today's segment, I want to go over a tweet exchange that kinda lays out the state of the discourse in lefty politics right now, and why what Biden is doing that we're going to be talking about is so important. Excuse me. So, I was scrolling through Twitter earlier today, and I saw a tweet that had an alarming amount of likes. It's probably gotten even more by now, because these kind of tweets, especially lately, go massively viral in the online left. It seems like right now, Twitter is split between Nazis and Trump supporters, and leftists who are not going to vote and want Trump to win. Well, not really want Trump to win, but want Biden to lose. So, this is the interaction. This person says, an absolutely audacious tweet. "It's incredible, really. Biden wiped out my $80,000 student loan. The first president of my lifetime to enact a policy that directly, substantially, and positively impacted my life. Freed up $800 a month, and I'd rather eat cat shit than vote for him." They go on to say that, you know, all the tweets of them, like, congratulating Biden for doing good policies, like, oh, I heard it's like, they would tweet, oh, I heard Biden did this insert good thing. If that's true, I'm gonna have to eat some dirt. And then people are, like, copy-pasting all of those tweets into the replies, and they're just replying, well, that was before he did a genocide. That was before he supported genocide. And, of course, I quote tweet it saying, 37,000 likes. Politics is really just a club to these people. And you've got this person right here who says, you're a genocide supporter, not listening to bitches like you in my replies, and they follow me. That's quite something. That is quite something. So, as you can imagine, the state of the online left is, it's quite awful. It's in a pretty bad state. A lot of people, no matter how good of a job Biden does as the president here domestically, as long as Israel is not literally in an unprecedented act of political defiance that has never happened in American history, like, completely cut off and, like, wrangled in, then they will not support Biden. This has given the Biden administration a pretty clear signal that nothing they do to appease young, progressive Gen Z voters will get them to vote for Democrats. I genuinely believe the behavior of non-voters this election, if Biden doesn't win, will decide whether or not the Democratic Party becomes the relatively left-wing party of the United States or the unambiguously centrist to center-right-leaning party of the United States, just acting as a barely, like, unironically barely different than Republicans party. Like much more like Mitt Romney than Barack Obama or Biden is what I'm talking about. Because clearly, based on what the Democratic Party is seeing here, there's absolutely no reason why they should put any work into tailoring their policies around appealing to a younger voter base. They just don't vote to begin with. And, yeah, why? So, like, what happened in the UK? Exactly. Yeah, this happened in the UK. Young people there didn't give a shit about voting, and so the progressive parties of the UK basically heavily tailor their rhetoric towards old center-left, like barely center-left leaning boomers and, like, pensioners, as they say. And, like, young progressives in the UK feel totally left behind, and it's all their fault. They were never willing to vote for the party. They were never willing to make it so that they were a constituent that these politicians relied on, like, maintaining the support of, because they don't understand how politics work. Yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it. But, regardless, it seems that Biden is still trying, and we will see, depending on the results of this election, if there even still is a democracy afterwards, what happens with the Democratic Party. Whether this is just to them, you know, Biden losing is just a sign that trying to appeal at all to young people, young radical left-wing perspectives, is just pointless. It will change nothing. They will just try to keep up this faux idea that they aren't being represented no matter what. The bar will just keep getting raised, unattainably. Well, this will be the real test of that, won't it? Biden pushing for Gaza ceasefire by Ramadan. White House says, waiting on Hamas sign-off. So it seems Israel signed off, The White House has signed off, and they're waiting for Hamas to agree to not be attacking people or Israel. So let's see.
We're going to discuss the Middle East and yesterday's tragic and alarming event in North Gaza, trying to get humanitarian assistance in there. In the coming days, we're going to join with our friends in Jordan and others in providing airdrops of additional food and supplies, including possibility of a Marine corridor to deliver large amounts of humanitarian assistance. We're going to insist that Israel facilitate more trucks and more.
I don't know why the audio is so fucked up, but yeah, he's so gurgly. He is very gurgly. I get why people think he's, like, old. There is audio, like, fuckery here, probably because, like, every time he turns, it fucks up. You can tell they're using one of those mics that captures your audio, like, you can kind of hear it happening now, probably, whenever I do this, the same effect. So it's whenever he moves his face, he's kind of fucking up the audio.
More routes to get more and more people the help they need. No excuses, because the truth is aid flowing to Gaza is nowhere nearly enough. We should be getting hundreds of trucks in, not just several.
Millions have.
Whoa, an ad. God damn it, USA Today. Come on. So yeah, Biden seems to actually be taking, at least rhetorically speaking, a pretty hardline stance, stating that the Palestinians are in a crisis, they need aid, and it's not a small amount of aid they need, but a substantial amount of aid. It's pretty significant, especially when also calling for a ceasefire. Israel has allegedly agreed to a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza. We'd all love for it to be permanent, but, you know, we take what we can get. I'm sure the Twitter lefties will find a way to raise the bar from here even higher. Remember, it's always going to be unattainable for any Democrat that's not, like, literally a communist wearing a hammer and sickle pin on their lapel. Israel has essentially agreed to a 6-week ceasefire in Gaza that would include the release of hostages, and negotiators are now waiting for Hamas to sign off on the deal, U.S. officials said Saturday. Quote, "The ball is literally in the court of Hamas," one official said. The Israelis, quote, "have more or less accepted the framework of a deal that would include a 6-week ceasefire and the release of vulnerable hostages, including women, children, and those who are elderly or wounded," said senior administration officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity. President Joe Biden said Friday he hopes that a deal can be in place by the start of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan, which begins March 10th. Biden is under pressure so that's 9 days from now. Biden is under pressure to call for a ceasefire as hunger and disease spread in Gaza after months of attacks by Israel following the state of the Israel-Hamas war. The U.S. began airdropping humanitarian aid into the area on Saturday, days after over 100 Palestinians... By the way, the whole, like, airdropping aid into Gaza, you wouldn't have heard that from any of these people. They probably don't even know about it, or if you told them about it, they would find a way to explain how it's actually the U.S. being supportive of the genocide in some way. The U.S. began airdropping humanitarian aid into the area on Saturday, days after over 100 Palestinians were killed when witnesses said Israeli forces fired at people waiting for food in Gaza City. Officials said the airdrops would make sure that food and other commodities get to the people who need them and help prevent the looting that has plagued the delivery of goods into the region on the ground. Over 30,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza since the start of the war after Hamas militants stormed southern Israel on October 7th, killing 1,200 people and taking 250 others hostage. Negotiations on a ceasefire deal are ongoing in Doha, Qatar. Doha, Qatar? I think I got it right. And significant progress has been made over the past few weeks, officials said. But like all things, until a deal is actually done, it's not done, one official said. Hamas is yet to agree to the terms of the deal, officials said. Biden spoke with the Emir of Qatar, Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. I know this guy. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, about the framework of the deal and about other issues that still need to be resolved. The question, officials said, is whether Hamas is committed to releasing hostages as part of any agreement. The hostages have to be released, one official said. Is Hamas committed to do that? That's really the main issue now. I don't know, guys. Here's the thing. The outcome of this will be what really decides whether people start to sway in any way, shape, or form more into Biden's favor on the left. No 8 days? Oh, no, it's the 2nd. I totally forgot. I thought it was the 1st. My bad, Lucky Otter. My bad. I thought it was the 1st. You're totally right. 8 days from now. So, what's really going to make up the decision on whether or not people's opinions towards Biden change on this issue is how this ends up turning out. And what decides how this turns out at the end of the day here, realistically, is not Israel. I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians during the ceasefire out of nowhere. They will continue to bomb civilians if Hamas doesn't agree to the ceasefire, or if Hamas breaks the ceasefire. And God knows what will happen if we aren't able to continue it after the 6-week agreement, if it does get agreed to in the first place. The problem is Hamas is, well, it is a terror group, and they do want to genocide Jews. You have to understand, like, many of the Muslim extremists around Israel that attack Israel don't just do so because Israel is an imperialistic regime that is taking their land and killing their people. They also do it because they are anti-Semitic, you know? Like, it's like they unironically, they have two, like, their justifications of racism or anti-Semitism justified by the fact that Israel is attacking them, and it's a mostly Jewish nation. So it's twofold, and we need to remember that just because the aggression from Israel could go away does not mean that the hatred towards Israel is going to go away for a lot of reasons. Yeah, it's a self-reinforcing cycle, too, because many Israelis are also quite Islamophobic. Xanderhall, why won't Twitter progressives vote for Biden, either if they do or do not get what they want? They want a virtue signal. What can I say to Lancer? Like, people like this just like virtue signaling. They don't care about what happens. And once again, I will ask you to remember, when it comes to these Twitter lefties, when it comes to a public figure on the left, whatever it may be, I want you to think about how much of their social status and success, their popularity, and their bottom line relies, or at least would be heavily improved by, Donald Trump winning the election, and us getting at the very least 4 more years of wall-to-wall, insane Trump coverage. Remember, a lot of these people, either for entertainment, social status, or money, have a vested interest, even if they are on the left, in Trump winning. It is simply in their best interest for that to happen. Most big public, being a big public figure makes you relatively outside of the issues that are going to be faced by the average American if Trump wins, at least in the short term. Which means calling for, like, Biden bad shit is easy views. Trump winning means way more easy views, and you can worry about the future when it comes to it. They can justify it by saying, well, you know, maybe if Trump does win, it'll radicalize people further left, and then we can have a revolution. Their batshit ideas are, they've never made sense, but you got to think about who's benefiting from what here. Yeah, to be fair, the current leadership, which is Hamas in Palestine, was to the Palestinian people, from their perspective, better than the alternative. They did elect them, but when, you know, they've got the guns and the power and the force in Gaza besides Israel, so, like, it's not as if the children of Palestine could just kind of rise up and overthrow Hamas and be like, okay, Israel, we're good. And even then, nothing will stop Israel from taking Gaza. Like, the land of Palestine will never stop being taken by Israel. They believe it all belongs to them, like God ordained by right. So they'll never stop displacing the Palestinians. That will never end. Like, the killing and the shooting and the bombing might end, but the get off this land at the, you know, threat of gunpoint, that'll never stop. And the sad part is that, unfortunately, Israel is possibly one of the most valuable assets America as an entity has on the world scale. We simply could not have the level of power we have on a global level today if it weren't for the existence of Israel. Like, to just drop them, cut them off, some, like, fantasy suggestion, I guess, that Twitter lefties would suggest, it would be the end of American world dominance, which sounds good, but, as an American, no, that would not be good. No, we like being number one. I want to keep that going. Big fan of that. America number one. Comment down below, America number one, if you watch this far. America number one.